When a woman learns to master her emotions and reconnect with her true worth, everything changes. She no longer begs for love because she doesn't need to. She awakens love simply by being who she is. And the most beautiful part? She doesn't have to chase it. Love finds its way back on its own. This isn't magic, it's psychology. Do you know that feeling, sister? The one where you're replaced, like an old piece of furniture without warning, without closure. It hurts, but listen closely. This isn't your ending. It's the beginning of a stronger, wiser version of you. Because what you choose to do in this moment of emptiness will define everything, whether you break down or rise again. Most people make the same mistake. They chase. They text as if their worth depends on a reply. They plead, explain, lower themselves, and with every desperate message, they lose a piece of their value. It's like trying to put out a fire by pouring emotional gasoline on it. Sound familiar? You're not alone. But now is the time to change the rules of the game.
Today, you'll understand why silence, detachment, and personal rebirth aren't just motivational quotes, they're real weapons. Psychological, emotional. And no, you don't need to become a guru or read 100 self-help books. You just need one thing: courage. The courage to act differently. Because the woman who stops begging for love is the same woman who starts radiating it without saying a single word, just through her presence. Stay until the end. This video isn't for emotional beggars. It's for women ready to transform into such an authentic, powerful version of themselves that even the past stops and looks back twice. This is about you, about your return to your center, about reconnecting with the woman you were always meant to be, because the very moment you stop needing him is the moment he starts needing you. Lesson number 1. The power of emotional silence. It's that silence that speaks louder than 1,000 desperate messages. Have you ever felt like the more you talk, the less you're heard? Let me tell you something, sister. Silence isn't emptiness. Silence is strategy. When he left, you probably did what so many others do. You reached out, asked for answers, maybe even begged for a one last chance. But all that noise? It only confirmed his decision to walk away. Do you know why? Because that noise doesn't say love. It screams desperation. And desperation, sister, is the most repellent perfume a woman can wear. Now listen carefully. When you choose silence, you're not vanishing. You're leaving a deeper impression. Emotional silence isn't surrender. It's cutting off the fuel to a fire that only drains you. And when someone is used to your constant presence, your messages, your availability, your absence becomes louder than any accusation. That's when the questions begin. Why isn't she reaching out? Doesn't she need me anymore? Is there someone else? It's like walking through a noisy street every day, and then suddenly complete silence. What do? You stop. You notice. You feel that something is missing. That's exactly how intelligent detachment works. It's not about disappearing. It's about creating such a powerful contrast that the other person simply cannot ignore it. The philosopher Epictetus said it best. First, understand the meaning of what you want to say. Then, speak. In this case, first understand what your silence is saying, and then let him fill in the blanks. Because when you stop explaining, he starts imagining. And that, sister, is no accident. It's emotional strategy.
a quiet power well known by women who've learned to master their emotions. Do you know what happens when a woman who always replied instantly suddenly disappears? She leaves behind a void, and human nature detests a void. We're wired to fill it. That same man who once ignored you so easily begins to feel the shift. You're no longer there to validate him, to cheer him on, to remind him how special he is. And just like that, you stop being background noise and become a lingering thought, an unresolved question echoing in his mind. Let me tell you the real story of a girl. She was blocked on all social media platforms. And what did she do? Nothing. She didn't retaliate. She didn't cry on Instagram stories or post cryptic quotes. She didn't beg, didn't send gifts, and didn't try to explain. Just total silence. Instead, she redirected all that energy inward. She focused on herself, on her body, her finances, her mindset. She became her own priority. 2 months later, he came back with a pathetic excuse. "I dreamed about you." That was no coincidence. That was the result of strategically used silence. Because silence doesn't just communicate, it creates. It creates curiosity, reflection, and sometimes even regret. It forces the other person to sit with the version of you that no longer chases, no longer pleads, and no longer waits. While she was silent, she rebuilt her self-worth, rediscovered parts of herself she had forgotten because she had focused so much on him. And when you do that inner work, everything on the outside changes. Your energy shifts. Your posture becomes more grounded. Your gaze carries a new clarity. And that, sister, he feels, even from thousands of kilometers away. Even in silence, your transformation speaks volumes. Silence is not passivity. It is charged power, an emotional time bomb. Delete that urge to text him today. No good morning, no memes, no subtle hints, nothing. Make yourself emotionally unavailable. Not cold, just unreachable. Delete him if you must. Not to forget him, but to prove to yourself that your energy is sacred. You're not punishing him. You're prioritizing you. And while you do that, evolve. Every silence should be worth 10 steps of inner growth. Think about it. Every time you resist the urge to reach out, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you build emotional strength. That strength radiates, and sooner or later, the one who left will feel it, not through words, but through the unshakable energy of a woman who no longer needs to be heard to be felt. And listen carefully. This is not about him. Every time you explain, beg, or plead, you're not just using words. You're broadcasting desperation. You're silently saying, "I need you more than I value myself." And that message, sister, is what drives him away. Because human nature, especially in love, is drawn to mystery, to value, to what must be earned. We all, without exception, crave what is rare, what is dignified, not what is handed over freely without effort. So when you stop chasing, you don't lose power, you reclaim it. Strategic silence is like a diet for the soul. At first, it feels unnatural. Your instincts scream to reach out, to explain, to fix. But as you resist that urge, something shifts. You begin to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You start to rebuild your sense of self, not around him,
but around you. Over time, you become stronger, more centered, more magnetic. And this transformation becomes impossible to ignore. It's as if your silence starts speaking louder than words, silently broadcasting, "I no longer seek validation. I am whole with or without you." So stop trying to convince him with explanations, apologies, or declarations. You've said enough. Now let your absence speak. Let your silence echo in the spaces he took for granted. Because here's the truth. The one who stays silent holds the power. The one who walks away without a show is the one remembered. The one who chases teaches the other to keep running. But the one who stops, truly stops, becomes a mystery. And mysteries don't get ignored. They get pursued. So stop screaming in places where no one hears you. Instead, build a silence so profound, so intentional, that it forces him to feel your absence and question everything.
Lesson 2. Reverse psychology without manipulation. When you step back, not to provoke, but to protect your energy, something shifts. That man who once took you for granted begins to lean in. Why? Because the dynamic has shifted. Your absence breaks the rhythm he was used to. Have you noticed how he suddenly reappears just when you've genuinely moved on? That's not coincidence. That's influence. True detachment isn't coldness or bitterness. It's power. It's knowing you can love someone and still choose yourself. And when you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you withdraw your attention, something happens in the male brain. You're no longer predictable, no longer always available. You become a question mark, an unknown. And the human brain, especially the male brain, hates unanswered questions and emotional gaps. Attention creates habit. It becomes a rhythm, an expectation. And when you break that rhythm, when your presence suddenly vanishes, he feels the loss. Even if he can't articulate it, even if he brushes it off, something inside him registers the shift. That is real reverse psychology. Not manipulation, not games, just the natural consequence of reclaiming your power. It's not about manipulating him. It's about demonstrating through your silence and actions that the dynamic has shifted, that you're no longer stuck in the same emotional loop. You're not ignoring him out of ego or spite. You're doing it out of clarity, out of wisdom.
Because someone who couldn't value you when you were present, they need to feel the full weight of your absence. Not through announcements, not through drama, but silently, without warning. It's like taking sugar away from someone who's had sweet coffee their whole life. At first, they can't quite place what's changed, but they feel it. They may not admit it, but they miss it. The taste is different now. And that shift, that contrast between what once was and what is now, triggers something deep in the male psyche. The hunting instinct. The urge to chase what is no longer easily available. When something pulls away, when someone becomes inaccessible, our first instinct is to chase, not out of weakness, but because we are human. And in men, that instinct is even more powerful. Why? Because evolution wired them to pursue what retreats, to conquer what feels unreachable, to fight for what isn't easily theirs. It's not a game. It's biology. Marcus Aurelius said it wisely. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy,
And in this context, that means you don't lower yourself. You don't beg. You don't chase validation.
You don't spiral into drama to get his attention. You shift your attention inward. You evolve. You grow. You become the version of yourself he never imagined you'd become. Not for him, but for you. You're not reactive. You're strategic. And that calmness, sister, that unshakable composure, throws everyone off balance. Because reverse psychology isn't about playing games. It's about shifting something deeper, the power dynamic. When you stop over-explaining, over-giving, and overstaying, you reclaim your value without saying a word. Think about it for a moment.
When someone chases you, you hold the control. You decide whether to respond, whether to give attention, whether to be present or not. But if you were always available before, always the first to text, always the one to fix things, and then suddenly you vanish, the control shifts. Now he's the one asking, where is she? Why isn't she writing? What's changed? That quiet shift in energy, that's what creates real closeness. Not neediness, not words, but mystery and power wrapped in silence. She went completely silent. No drama, no long messages, no emotional outbursts. She started going to the gym, focused on her business, and disappeared emotionally. And guess what? It happened. He was already with another woman, but 2 weeks later, a message popped up. Are you okay? Harmless? Maybe. But that little question hid something deeper. A ripple of unease in the face of her transformation. Because when you change, when your energy shifts, when your presence is no longer a given, you create an imbalance. And humans, especially men, always seek to restore what they can't control. That's not just curiosity.
That's addiction. So apply it. True no contact. No glances, no asking about him, no checking his stories, no decoding signs. Just live your life. Reinvent your days. Turn every minute without him into a stage of personal growth. A new habit, a new boundary, a new version of you. Because your distance isn't coldness. It's not indifference. It's repositioning. And this repositioning, it's not just about where you stand in his life, it's about where you stand in yours. It's a quiet, powerful statement that says, I'm no longer where you lost me. You're reorganizing your thoughts, your priorities, your values. You're no longer the woman refreshing her phone, waiting for a message. You're the one writing her own story, walking her own path. And that emotional independence, it's magnetic. It radiates. So stop trying to be remembered. Become someone unforgettable. Because when you shift your energy, you don't just change your mood. You change the entire game.
You weren't born to be an option. You were born to be the one worth choosing. Not because you begged, not because you proved, but because you became. Lesson 3. The power of emotional scarcity. What is rare is desired more. Because what we can't have is exactly what fascinates us most. There's a rule that never fails. What is abundant loses value. This applies to everything: money, time, and people.
when you were always available, when you were the first to message, when you checked in on him, he didn't appreciate it. He expected it. And what becomes routine, it gets taken for granted. It becomes background noise. It becomes invisible. Think about it. Do you appreciate the air you breathe? Probably not, because it's always there. It's constant, expected, unnoticed. But if you've ever gasped for breath, even for a few seconds, you remember instantly how precious it is. The same applies to your emotional presence. When you're always available, always responding, always giving, you blend into the background. You become something he assumes. But the moment you break that rhythm, the moment your energy retreats,
Everything shifts. Because absence creates awareness, and awareness breeds desire. Your emotional scarcity begins to trigger something deep in his mind, a chain of questions that spiral with no resolution. Why is she gone? What changed? Doesn't she care anymore? Has she moved on? And that whirlpool of uncertainty, that quiet confusion is more powerful than any poem, any confession, or any perfectly timed "I miss you." Because now you are no longer predictable. You've become a mystery. And mystery holds more weight than attention ever could. It's like a plant that was always green, thriving, present, taken for granted, and then one day it withers. Only then does someone pause and realize what they had. Or like the bread that always sat on the table, always there, always ignored, until one day it's gone, and suddenly everyone wants it. This isn't a trick. It's not manipulation. It's not a game. It's a universal law, the law of scarcity. What is rare becomes valuable. What is unavailable becomes desired. And you, when you pull back, you become that rarity. Economists know it, psychologists confirm it, and wise women apply it.
When something becomes scarce, its perceived value skyrockets. Diamonds, time, peace, attention. They all become precious the moment they're not freely available. And your attention, your energy, your love, they are no exception. Esco said it clearly. We don't appreciate what we have until we lose it. So why keep giving your presence to someone who treats it like air? Let them feel the loss. Let them wonder. Let them miss what once felt guaranteed. But listen closely. The truly stoic woman doesn't withdraw to be chased. She doesn't create distance for applause. She acts to stay centered, to protect her peace, to keep her power internal, not scattered in the hands of others. She doesn't seek validation, yet her presence is felt, and her absence echoes. Because this isn't just about love. It's about every relationship in your life. Friends, family, coworkers. When you stop overgiving, people start noticing. Not because you became colder, but because you finally became whole. Have you noticed something about the most in-demand people? The busiest ones. The ones who don't respond right away, who are intentional with their presence, who are selective with their time. They're also the most respected, the most remembered, the most desired. Is it a coincidence? Absolutely not.
Their inaccessibility increases their value. Not because they're playing hard to get, but because they understand their worth isn't in how available they are, but in how aligned they are. They don't rush to prove themselves. They move with purpose, and the world responds. She simply became unreachable, not out of revenge, not to make a point, but because she found herself again. The version of her who waited for replies, who over-explained, who needed validation. She no longer existed. And that silence, it said more than 1,000 words ever could. Because true transformation doesn't need to announce itself. It's felt, it's seen, and most of all, it's respected. Exactly. She didn't scream, she didn't beg, she didn't explain. She simply withdrew, and in doing so, she flipped the entire dynamic. Because when something is always there, we assume it always will be. But when it disappears, we panic. We chase. We remember what we once ignored. That's the paradox of emotional scarcity. When you stop offering yourself so freely, you become the very thing they can't stop thinking about. Because nothing haunts a man more than the woman who no longer waits. Your silence becomes louder than words. Your absence becomes a mirror, forcing him to confront what he overlooked.
And suddenly, he doesn't just want you back. He needs to prove to himself that he could still have you. But here's the truth. You're not playing hard to get. You're just finally choosing yourself. And when your priorities shift inward, your light changes. Not dimmer, brighter, but less accessible. Not cold, calm, but no longer chaotic. Not bitter, better, because now you're aligned with your own worth. So let him wonder. Let him scroll through your updates and see the glow he no longer has access to. Let your silence speak of your healing. And most importantly, let yourself rise. Because you're not just becoming harder to reach, you're becoming impossible to replace. It's the quiet power of a woman who no longer chases, but attracts. She doesn't need to scream her worth. She embodies it. Her boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks, and not everyone gets a key anymore. Because now, her energy is currency, and not everyone can afford it. This isn't revenge. It's rebirth, a return to self. And while the world may try to pull her back into old habits, she smiles, because she knows the most magnetic force isn't noise, it's clarity. And she's never been clearer. Real transformation isn't loud. It doesn't beg. It doesn't announce itself. It shows in how you walk, in what you tolerate, and in what you now protect with sacred boundaries. Because when you stop giving your energy to places that deplete you, something powerful happens. You reclaim yourself. And suddenly, he doesn't just notice your absence. He feels it. Not because you wanted revenge, but because you finally chose yourself. That's not ego. That's healing.
And just like that house, sister, you become living proof of restoration. You don't have to explain what happened. Your evolution speaks louder than any conversation ever could. Because healing has a presence. It has a weight. It radiates. He may not say it, but he'll feel it. The silence between you now carries a new kind of power. Not emptiness, but elegance. Not longing, but legacy. And the woman you've become? She's not waiting to be seen. She's too busy becoming unforgettable. Because true transformation doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up in the way you carry yourself, in the boundaries you no longer have to explain, in the peace that no longer requires permission. The real glow-up? It's not the gym selfies, not the filtered smiles. It's the unshakable stillness inside you, the one that says, I am no longer waiting to be chosen. I've already chosen myself.
That's not ego. That's healing. And healing doesn't chase, it attracts silently, powerfully, and without effort. Because pain, when faced, not avoided, becomes purpose. It strips away the illusions, the attachments, the need to be needed. It shows you what was never real and forces you to build something that is. And that's the essence of personal alchemy. Turning every heartbreak into fuel, every rejection into redirection, every silence into sacred space. This is not about becoming someone new to be loved. It's about returning to who you were before the world told you to shrink. Because the true you, the whole you, was never broken. She was buried beneath expectation, fear, and self-abandonment. But now, she's rising. Not to prove anything, but to be everything she already is. Because she wasn't waiting, she was working. Not to get him back, but to get herself back. The woman she became wasn't born out of revenge. She was born out of realization. Realization that her worth was never tied to a relationship, that rock bottom was actually a foundation, and that being left wasn't the end, it was the beginning. So when he returned, hoping to press rewind, he found there was no button to push. She had outgrown the story, and that was her quiet victory. And once you taste that kind of self-love, the kind that isn't performative, that isn't dependent on anyone else's gaze, everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop waiting, you stop shrinking. Because now you know, you are the source, the one who builds, who heals, who rises. And if love finds its way back to you, it will have to rise to your level, not the other way around. Exactly. So here's your gentle reminder and challenge. Make a list today. Ask yourself, what do I want to change about my body? How can I strengthen my mindset? Which habits are holding me back, and which ones can elevate me? What are my real goals beyond relationships or validation? Then commit, not in loud declarations, but in silent discipline.
Because the goal isn't to win someone back, it's to win yourself back. And in doing so, you'll radiate a kind of energy that can't be ignored, not because you're chasing, but because you've become the version of yourself you were always meant to be. Personal rebirth is the toughest journey, but also the most fulfilling. While many wait anxiously for a message, you focus on real progress. While others beg for attention, you build unwavering inner strength. And that, sister, is the clear line between those who plead and those who choose. Don't beg for a second chance. Rebuild yourself so powerfully that he wishes he had one. And if he does come back, remember, you're the one who holds the power to decide. Because the woman who truly transforms doesn't ask, she chooses.
Lesson 5. The Trap of Contact and the Power of Silence. What he doesn't know about you drives him crazy. After a breakup, many fall into the same trap, staying in contact. They think that by being close, by showing him their best side, he'll eventually realize what he lost. But that's where they go wrong. Staying in contact does just one thing. It keeps him comfortable. As long as he knows you're still there, just a message away, not fully gone, there's no urgency, no real sense of loss, no value. And sister, what's guaranteed is never truly cherished. Do you know what truly holds power? Absolute silence. No blocking, no messages, no reactions, just complete emotional disappearance. When you're no longer there, when your energy vanishes, his mind begins to fill the void. And the male mind, starved of answers, starts weaving its own stories. Is she with someone else? Has she moved on? Why isn't she reaching out? Has she forgotten me? This isn't indifference, it's desire in disguise, attention wrapped in doubt. It's like a TV show that suddenly stops airing new episodes. What happens then? The audience grows restless, hunting for spoilers, spinning theories, becoming obsessed. The same thing happens when you disappear without a word. You become the unfinished story. And sister, unfinished stories, they're addictive. The human mind is wired to complete patterns, to seek meaning, and to fill in the blanks. When you cut off contact, no drama, no hints, just pure absence, you create a void that his mind can't stop trying to fill. And in that process, emotions and thoughts are stirred in him that no message from you ever could. Because when you stay silent, his mind begins to speak, and what he imagines in your absence becomes far more powerful than any explanation you could give. ChatGPT said, "Silence is like a blank canvas, and he paints it with his fears, desires, and regrets. As Epictetus wisely said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. The same goes here. Don't explain your distance, announce your disappearance, or ask permission to step back. Just live it. Disappear with dignity. Be silent with elegance, because silence requires no justification."
Silence works. There was a guy who blocked his ex everywhere. Instagram, WhatsApp, everywhere. And what did she do? She said nothing. No attempts to win him back, no hints, no public tears, no begging. Just silence. Just focus. Just growth. Months later, he reached out and messaged her. He messaged her from a fake account. "How are you?" Coincidence? Definitely not. This is pure psychology. When you deny access, you spark obsession. What we can't have becomes our greatest desire. This principle works because it taps into something primal, something raw, the fear of irreversible loss. As long as you're there, reachable, he knows he can come back anytime. He has time, options, control. But the moment you vanish, without a trace, no drama, no warning, his mind panics. The fear of losing you forever takes hold, and that fear becomes a stronger motivator than any other emotion. No likes, no "how are you?" No "I saw your story," nothing. Just total silence. And while you remain silent, make sure your absence is meaningful. Learn something new. Train your mind and body. Start a project. Heal old wounds. Grow stronger. Because if you ever come back, you won't be the same woman anymore. You'll be a new, transformed version, one that leaves him completely speechless. This silence is far from passive. It's power in motion. You're not sitting around waiting for him to return. Instead, you're creating a life that's rich, vibrant, and entirely your own. So much so that his presence or absence doesn't control your happiness anymore.
The one who chases only stirs anxiety, but the one who disappears sparks curiosity. And curiosity, it's the very first step toward desire. As long as you keep talking, you leave no room for him to miss you. But when you choose silence, inside, he starts screaming. And remember this, magnetic silence isn't just a short-term trick. It's not a game to win him back. It's a way of life, a powerful state of mind, a place where you no longer need his attention to feel whole. Because the woman who rebuilds herself in silence becomes truly unforgettable. Nights filled with tears, mornings shadowed by fear, days clouded with doubt, it's all part of the journey. Don't deny these feelings. Don't run from them. Embrace them. Live through them. Because every tear you shed plants a seed of growth. Every moment of silence is a powerful act of self-love. And every day without contact quietly declares, I choose myself. I will no longer abandon who I am for anyone. Do you know the most powerful part of all this? It's the moment when you stop pretending. You're no longer faking that you're okay, because you truly are. You truly are. You're not just acting strong, you've become strong. You no longer waste time figuring out how to get him back. Instead, your focus is clear. Never lose yourself again.
And that, sister, is true rebirth. Not the kind designed to impress him, but the kind that truly sets you free. He doesn't return just because you call him. He comes back when he realizes the woman he once knew no longer exists. And if he does come back, the power isn't his anymore. It's yours. Because the woman who once begged for love is gone. In her place stands someone whole, centered, and free. So next time you find yourself missing him, ask, am I missing him, or am I missing the part of me that got lost in him? Remind yourself every single day. You are never alone. You have yourself. And when you have that, you already have everything you truly need. Don't fear the pain. Fear getting stuck in it. Unprocessed pain turns into resentment. But pain you face and understand transforms into wisdom. Today isn't about winning him back. It's about making sure you never lose yourself for anyone again. What you choose to do with this pain will shape your story. You can let it break you or rise from it as a woman who is unforgettable, irreplaceable. And if, after everything, he dares to return, he won't find the same woman waiting. Because you won't be standing there with open arms and a heart laid bare. You'll be grounded, strong, whole, with your eyes fixed on your growth, your goals, your becoming. And from that place of power, you'll choose whether he even deserves a place in the life you've rebuilt. So tell me, at what moment in this video did it feel like I was speaking directly to you? Which words made you pause and think, this is exactly what I needed to hear? Your story has the power to light the way for other women, women who now stand exactly where you once stood.